Okay, Hazak Baruch and good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Thursday morning as we are here in the weeks between Pesach and Shavuot, and it is customary to study Pirkei Avot. And we started yesterday. In yesterday's class, we gave a nice introduction. At least I think it was nice, in my opinion. But we gave an introduction about why is Masechet Avot here in this volume of Shas? Why is it all the way here with the books of Nezikim? That was yesterday's class, so please refer to that one. Today, let's jump to the first Mishnah. So if you have a Pirkei Avot, this would be a great time to open it up and follow us along. Here we go. Moshe kibel Torah misinai. Here we go, opening words of the book of Avot, which again is a book of ethics. There's no halacha in this book. Every other Mishnah deals with halacha. Halachot of Shema, halachot of Shabbat, halachot of holidays, halachot. This is no halachot, it's advice and ethics and morality. Opening words. Moshe kibel Torah misinai. Moshe received Torah from Sinai. Now, when we say, it's important just to preface with this, when we say that Moshe got the Torah from Sinai, which Torah are we referring to? We know that we have two Torahs. Now, don't get off the class yet before you think I'm a heretic. Okay, relax. Moshe, we have two Torahs. Which two Torahs do we have? We have the Torah shebichtav and the Torah shebe'al peh. We have the written. We have this right here that's written, and the Torah shebe'al peh. Okay? When we say Moshe kibel Torah misinai, which Torah are we referring to? We're talking about the oral Torah. The oral Torah Moshe got at Sinai. Okay? So all of the things that are not written in here, okay, those were given to him at Sinai. And Mesara leYehoshua, he gave it over to his disciple Joshua. VeYehoshua laZekenim, Joshua then handed it over to the Zekenim. Now what does that mean, he gave it to Yehoshua? I thought Moshe taught all of us. The Gemara says, I believe it's in Erechin if I'm not mistaken, the Gemara says that when Moshe received the halacha from Hashem, he sat his brother Aharon and then he taught it to him. And then Aharon moved to the side, and then Aharon's sons came in and he taught it to them. And then they moved to the side, and then Moshe gave it over to the elders. And then they moved to the side, and then the entire Jewish people came in and Moshe gave it to them. And then Moshe taught it 4 times. And then Moshe left the room, and Aharon got up to the pulpit, and he repeated it to his children and to whoever was present. And then the Zekenim, and then the sons, and then the Zekenim. So everyone heard it 4 times at least. Okay? Everyone heard it 4 times. So what do you mean Moshe taught it to Yehoshua? He taught it to all of us. What does the opening sentence mean? Moshe gave it to Yehoshua. It means that he handed to Yehoshua the authority, or the one to be in charge of ensuring that it would be taught and received and learned. And if there's any questions, that's what it means, right? Not that he only taught it to Joshua. Everyone learned it. But Yehoshua was the one that received the keys, the tradition. As an example, when Moshe died, what does it say? That Yehoshua and the Zekenim came, and 3,000 halachot were forgotten, and they came using their pilpul and their skills, and they reminded themselves, I'm forgetting the word, but they reminded themselves, or they figured out again from new what those 3,000 lost halachot were. They rediscovered them. Okay? So anyways, Moshe gave it to Yehoshua gave it to the Zekenim, the elders. The Zekenim gave it to the Nevi'im. The Nevi'im gave it to the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, the members of the Great Assembly. This was an institution of 120 rabbis that were in charge of creating many laws. As an example, the Sidur that we have was written by the members of the Great Assembly. A lot of takanot, a lot of the Rabbanans were created. The brachot that we say, the template, many of the things. Mordechai was one of the members, by the way, of the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah. So here we have the Shilshelet, which means the chain of tradition, all the way from Sinai to you, to me, to every single one of us. There's no gap in history. There's nowhere that we never know. There's not a single time in history that we were like, wait, where was the Torah? Maybe there was a break, a missing link. There was no missing link. We know exactly where Torah was at every second, which is why Judaism is so powerful and so strong. And that is, again, because we have undisturbed, undisrupted Mesorah all the way back to Har Sinai. My father told me what he heard from his father, what he heard from his. We had a mass revelation, and that is undisturbed. Okay, so this is a beautiful Mishnah. It's a very important Mishnah. And I actually think that we could all agree that this Mishnah really gives feet or a base to the whole Torah that we study. Because if this is not true, if we don't know this, then how do you know what I'm teaching you in Perashah class is correct? Maybe it's wrong. Maybe I made it up. How do you know that you should wear tefillin? Maybe I made it up. Maybe a guy made up Shabbat. He just came and decided, you know what? I don't know, I want to bother the people every 7 days. Keep Shabbat. Who said it's divine? Maybe some guy made it up. No, can't be. Because we have from Sinai to Moshe, and we had a mass revelation, and it's clear at every stage. So this is a very important Mishnah. I think we could all agree that probably this is the most important Mishnah in the entire Shas. This is it. This is what gives everything else credence. Okay, that's a nice word. Okay, this is what gives everything else legitimacy. And if that's the case, my question today is a simple one. Why is this Mishnah here? We already discussed yesterday that Avot, Mishnah Avot that we're learning, is in the middle of the 4th book of the 6 books of Mishnah. It's in the book of Nezikim. What's it doing in Nezikim? This link, this tradition, should be all the way in. This should be the first Mishnah of Shas. The first Mishnah of Shas should be Moshe. By the way, before I teach you halachot of Shema, before I teach you the halachot of prayers, before I teach you anything, you need to know that this is not made up. This is all from God. This is all from heaven. This is all from Sinai. Why is it here in Masechet Avot? Okay? It's a great question. There are many answers to this question. Allow me please to read to you the first answer. Here we go. First answer given by the Bartenura. Rav Ovadia Bartenura says, Omer Ani, I think, Lefisha Masechta Zo, because this tractate, this journal, Ena Meusedet al pi mitzvah mitzvot Torah. This Masechet is not like other Masechets that deal with mitzvot. Ela kula musarim umidot, like we explained, it's all ethics, it's all character traits. And here's the point. V'chachmei umot ha'olam. And by the way, the philosophers of the world, gam ken hibru sfarim, they also have books on ethics. You go to any public library, say, do you have any section on ethics, morality? Sure. We got dozens of books on morality. You go and you find written by non-Jews, by secular, by philosophers that don't know anything about Judaism. It could be Chinese, they could be, whatever chokhmah they have. Chivru Sfarim, they also compiled. You have Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends, right? A lot of important books. You have Peterson, and you have Tony Robbins. You have a lot of thinkers and a lot of people that teach you character and ethics and self-help, right? You don't have to necessarily, be Jewish to have a book on ethics, right? If you want to know the halachot of tefillin, you're not going to Tony Robbins, right? You need to come to a Jew. You need to come to a rabbi. If you need help how to kosher your kitchen for Pesach, you're not going to go to the Brooklyn Public Library. You're going to go to a Jewish library. How do I kosher my Pesach, right? You need to know the laws of family purity. You're not going to look it up on TED Talks. You're not going to find a TED Talk on family purity. I need family purity. I need to go to a chacham, to a Torah, to a rabbi, to a Jewish source. But if you want morality, if you want ethics, you could go on a TED Talk. You could go on books written by people. Okay, so where's he getting with this? He says, however, look at this important line. The world also compiled books, but here's the key. Kemo shebadu milibam. But really, all of these ideas that you're going to read from the secular world, they thought about it and they made it up from their own hearts. Bedarkei musar, in the ways of ethics. How should a person act with his friend? Therefore, therefore, our masechet that deals with ethics as well. Because again, you go to an ethics store, you're going to get it in the ethics section. You have a book by this guy, by this guy, and you'll also find Avot. Maybe it'll be there. That's also a book on ethics. He says, however, there's a very big difference between our book and every other book on the shelf. Our book, Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai. Lomar lecha, to teach you, shehamidot vehamusari, to teach you that what you're going to read in this book. Lo badu otam chachmei mishnah belabam. None of this is made up from their hearts. Ela af elu ne'emru misinai. These were also given on Har Sinai. What a powerful answer. What an important message. To remember that what we have, the ethics, the values that we have, this goes back really to a much broader question, and that is it possible to even have ethics without having God? A lot of people would argue and say that good character is something that you just need to think about. And you could have good character, you could be a good person without necessarily being a believer in Hashem. You could be an atheist, and you could use your brain and arrive at proper conduct. And I think Rav Ovadia Bartenura would argue. Rav Ovadia Bartenura would say that's impossible. Because at the end of the day, if the source of your ethics is not Sinai, if it's not coming from Moshe, from God, if it's coming from your own head, if it's coming from your own heart, so what's influencing that heart? You know, that heart maybe has a bias, it has a prejudice. It's not true that morality is a constant. It's not true that ethics is common sense. Common sense is not so common. As Einstein said, common sense is really just a combination of all the things that you were taught by the age of 18. You go to certain places in Africa, certain places in the world, that killing today, for them, is common sense. It's okay to kill. Now, what does that mean? Here in America, we don't believe that it's okay to kill. But there are certain sects, cults, that will tell you could kill. You could steal. It's okay. The reason, by the way, today in the West, it's not okay to kill, is because the West was influenced by the Torah. I don't know if you knew that. All the Judeo-Christian values slowly peaked their way, they made their way into our Torah and into the world. They influenced the world. The world is where it is today because it was inspired and the Torah made an impact. The values of the West are the values of the Torah. Help, don't steal, don't kill, immorality. These are all things that were taught first by the Torah. If the Torah didn't impact the world wouldn't think the way it does today. I know I'm maybe saying something that's going to maybe make you a little bit bothered, but we have to know that that's how it is. 2,000 years, slowly, the Torah penetrated the way the world thinks today. At the time when the Torah was given, it wasn't a normal thing to not kill. We know the Midrash. When God came to Esav, do you want it? And Esav said, what does it say? You can't kill. Esav's like, no, I can't have that. We kill. What does it say? Don't steal. Ishmael said, what do you mean don't steal? People steal. We do it. If you need money, you steal. It's only today that it's not accepted in majority of the world, at least, right? But my point I'm trying to bring out is that even morality is not something that's self-understood. It's something that we need to be taught. If you have someone that's an atheist that has good character, it's because those good character traits were given to him by a divine source. Maybe he heard it from someone who did believe in God, or at least that person heard it from someone but what I'm trying to say is that eventually the source must have been God. It has to be. Maybe he doesn't know it. Maybe it was 100 generations ago. It could be. Could be it was 100 generations ago. But the source, if you keep going back, it has to be from the Torah. Because good midot, ethics, and by the way, you look at ethics today, it's not the same as it was 50 years ago. 50 years ago, euthanasia was unethical. 50 years ago, abortion was unethical. And all of a sudden, it became ethical. It became okay. Now it's accepted. So we have to be careful. What I'm trying to say is, who do we trust for our source of ethics? Where do we go to when we want to hear these ideas? We have to make sure, it's all the same. You hear it from anybody. You can't hear it from anybody. Maybe the guy's ideas are corrupt. Maybe his philosophy is already messed up from different influences. You can't trust any source. I think today we could definitely hear Rav Ovadia Bartanura as we see what's going on in the world. The world's on fire. Things are just so out of whack. People are so messed up. Some ideas that some people had, they want to start legitimizing infanticide. I mean, it's just crazy what's going on in the world. Okay, here we go. Seems like we have a fire drill going on in the Beit Knesset, so I apologize for the lights. Ooh, okay. Hold on, here we go, hold on. I apologize, everybody. We'll be right back just to make sure that we're okay over here. Okay, Baruch Hashem, all good over here. Let's resume. Okay, so that is the idea over here of why our Mishnah has to begin with this shilshelet, with Moshe giving it to Yoshua, because you don't need to tell it to me by the laws of tzitzit, by the laws of Shema. I know that Shema needs to come from God. No man can make up these laws of brachot, of Shabbat. But maybe ethics, I could turn to a secular source. Maybe it's okay for me. Moshe kibel Torah misinai. Even what you're going to read here comes from a divine source. Because again, we have to be very careful. When the source is not from God, so then it just becomes a matter of taste. And taste, my friends, changes very, very quickly. Today, this is fashionable. Tomorrow, this dress becomes okay to dress. This type of action is accepted. You could have an open relationship with your spouse, and tomorrow, this type of talk, and we censor these words, we don't censor those words. This is not a curse anymore. This type of content is acceptable to teach to our children. So again, all these questions of ethics, we cannot leave that up to man, because man is biased, man is opinionated. It must come from a perfect divine source. So I think this is something that is understood. It's what Avraham Avinu says, really, if we just take a minute on a tangent of here. Avraham says this to Avimelech. Okay, remember when Avraham goes down to Pelishtim, and he makes up this plan with his wife Sarah to say that she's really his sister so that they don't kill him, right? And then Avimelech says, oh, she's your sister, so she's single. What about it? Avraham, maybe put in a good word, set me up with her. And Avraham sets him up, and he takes Sarah, he abducts her for the night, and God comes to him in the beginning of the night, don't touch her, she's married. And Avimelech comes the next morning, and he says, Avraham, why'd you do this to me? You should have just told me. We have Over here in Pelishtim, we have laws, we have rules. We're ethical people. You tell me she's your wife, no one will touch her. You had to lie to me that she's your sister. Why'd you do that, Avraham? We have laws. We're civilized. What does Avraham say back? Anyone remember the line? Very, very important line. Avraham says back to the king, Avimelech, ki amarti, because I said to myself, Rak en yirat Elokim b'makom hazeh. You guys have a civilization, you have ethics, you have good conduct, but you don't have yirat Elokim. You don't have a fear of God. The source of your morals are not from Hashem. And if you don't have fear of Hashem, if the top of the chain is not Sinai, then who's to guarantee that the laws won't change? Laws change. Morality, code changes. Civilizations, what was not acceptable tomorrow is okay today. You couldn't dress like this yesterday. I mean, many of us are still able to remember TV shows where they showed just a couple in their nightgown, and that was already considered controversial. In a nightgown? Who shows people in a nightgown? You don't do that. It's very modern. Today, it's look what changed in just 50 years. Today, what's being shown on television? When the rabbis yelled at how the TV was peritzut 50 years ago, they looked at them rabbis. What are you talking about? The ladies are all covered. They're modest. What? Right? Today, you don't have to. You don't have to wonder, did they know what they were talking about? Today we see what's going on, we see what's being played. And therefore, my point is, again, just we have to be very careful what the source of our ethics are, to remember that our ethics come from an amazing source. They come from Sinai. Again, there's a lot more on this answer. But in other words, what I'm trying to say, im en Torah en derech eretz. You cannot have derech eretz without Torah. You need Torah, you need God to have good conduct. And even if you'll find me someone today that's an atheist, that's a good person. It could be. I'm not saying no. Could have a good guy that doesn't believe in God. But what I'm going to ask you is now, ask that person, where did he learn his good conduct from? It has to be that somewhere, somehow, back in its source, it was from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There is an interesting, though, one point on this. The Gemara says, I believe it's in Eruvin, if I'm not mistaken, again, please correct me, maybe page 100, but it says over there that if Hashem didn't give us the Torah, we would still be able to learn proper conduct from the animal kingdom. You can learn from a cat how to be loyal, and you can learn from an ant this and from that, right? The Gemara has a bunch of examples of different animals that we can learn from proper conduct. You know what? Let me find you the source instead of guessing. Let's see, where is it? Here we go. Here it is. Eruvin Kuf Amud Bet. Should we open it up? Let's open it up. Why not? Okay, here we go. Everybody, if you have a Talmud, let's open up to Masechet Eruvin, page 100b, Kuf Amud Bet. Okay, hopefully I can find it quickly. And here, Baruch Hashem, on the bottom of the page. Okay. Slowly, lagging. Okay, here we go. And okay. Ilmale lo netena Torah, says Rabbi Yohanan, if Torah wasn't given, hayinu lemedin siniut mehatul. We would learn how to be modest from the cat. The cat covers its excrement. That's nice, that's modest. Doesn't just, you see certain animals, they make on the floor, right? Dogs, you see dog excrement wherever you walk, right? A cat, you ever saw cat on the street, cat excrement? You never saw it, right? You know why? Because the cat has modesty. Gezel minemala. Maybe I'm wrong, by the way. I don't know if you have a cat and you want to argue, but I'm just telling you what the Gemara says of you. Gezel minemala. We can learn how to not steal from an ant. Ants don't steal. It doesn't take grain from other ants. That's nice. Arayot, forbidden relations. Where do we learn that from? Forbidden relations from a yonah, from the dove. That's why the Jewish people are compared to a dove, because the dove is very faithful to its partner. Derech eretz, proper conduct in relations from the rooster, from the tarnegol. The tarnegol, most animals in the animal kingdom, if they want to be intimate, they just go to the female and they're intimate. The tarnegol, mefayes ve'ahar kach bo'el, it first appeases, it asks permission, etc., etc. Okay, either way, we see from here that it's possible to learn conduct from the animal kingdom. That seems a little bit problematic with what we just spent 20 minutes talking about. We're talking for 20 minutes. That conduct must come from Hashem. So what's the answer? How could it be that we could learn it from the world around us? The answer is, it's true. It's true that maybe these animals have conduct, but again, they're not complete. They're not to the fullest extent. They're very superficial. What does that mean, the very superficial? So that means that you can find proper conduct by the animals in the animal kingdom, but you need to know that those conducts don't last. So what does that mean? As an example, an ant doesn't steal from each other, but an ant will steal from other animals. You understand? So you can learn the conduct slightly, but it's not complete. It's fake. It's incomplete good manners, right? Cats, they cover their excrement, right? But they go ahead and they'll kill a cat. They'll kill a mouse. So you see that their values are a little bit warped up. They're warped up values. And this is kind of like what happens when you have, again, a society that their values come not from a divine source. When there was a cub that killed a child many, many years ago in the tri-state area, I believe. Again, I don't have the details to the story, but there was a dead, they killed the bear and they killed the mother. The mother died from the bear's hands. So you had an orphan animal and an orphan child. And Giuliani said, the problem with our society is that when they raised and they collected money, more money was given to the orphaned animal than to the orphaned child. Okay, so that's, again, warped up values. That's messed up values. That's what happened. That's what happens when the source of your tzedakah, again, is not from halacha, when it's not from the Torah. Im en Torah en derech eretz. You need to know that whatever we're studying here, all the morals that we have come from Sinai. So that's the first answer to our question. Why does our Mishnah begin with this shilshelet, with this link of authority, of tradition, all the way back? Another answer is given by the Midrash Shemuel. Let's read together Midrash Shemuel. And he says, it's possible, another answer, it's not possible, he says, for the Torah to exist within a person if he's not also God-fearing. That goes back to another very important point, and that is that to be a person that's qualified to be a leader, qualified to be a teacher of Torah, you have to first be prefaced with Yirat Het. You are not qualified to teach, you are not qualified to give if you are lacking in your ethics. Like it says in the Tanakh, we're going to learn this later on, if you're just an intellectual, but you don't fear, you don't have good manners, you don't have good conduct, then your wisdom is unacceptable. Right? And this is such an important point, again, to make sure that the people that we're learning by are people that are God-fearing. Right? Like he quotes over here, another pasuk, Yirat Hashem yotzaro, that the fear of God is the preservative for our knowledge. We can have a lot of knowledge, but if you don't have good midot, you're like what we call a hamor noseh sefarim. You take a lot of books and you put him on a donkey. The donkey's carrying a lot of books, but he's still a donkey. He's still a hamor. You could have a person who learns a lot of Torah and who teaches a lot of wisdom, but if he's not a good person, he's like a hamor carrying a lot of books. Right? Moshe, Yehoshua, the elders, why were they picked? Why were they picked to be the leaders? Was it because of their intellectual knowledge, their great capacity, because they were spiritual people? That's not why. You know why Moshe received the Torah? You know why Moshe kibel Torah Sinai? You know why Moshe and Yehoshua and the Zikanim, you know why they were the leaders? Because they kept everything else that's written in this Masechet. They had good ethics, they had good character, they had good midot. Because this entire tractate, because it's all dealing with fear and humility, very good, humility, umusar, and again, rebuke, and criticism, and ethics. And this is the preservative for the Torah and wisdom. Therefore, all of this must be prefaced with Moshe Kibel Torah Sinai. The only reason Moshe becomes the great leader of the Jewish people, Moshe wasn't necessarily smarter than other people. You should know that. Moshe wasn't smarter. And this is, by the way, true with all the great leaders of our times, all the great rabbis that we read about. They had excellent midot, excellent conduct. You cannot be a great rabbi if you have bad character. You cannot be a great anything in our religion. That's not necessarily true in the world at large. The world at large, you could have a person that's a big professor that has students stand up for him when he walks in, and the person is immoral, the person is disgusting, the person is had just bad character. Doesn't matter. He has wisdom. Let's go learn by the Torah. That's unacceptable. They go hand in hand. So just like in Torah and Derech Eretz, the first answer that we gave, that if you don't have the Torah, you can't arrive at proper conduct. But the inverse is also true. If there's no Derech Eretz, then you won't be able to properly receive the Torah. So it's like a yin-yang, they're going hand in hand. The story is told of Rav Yitzchak Elchanan Spector, a great giant in the previous generation, and he was once sent a letter by a fellow who asked him a certain question in halacha, a question in a certain meat and dairy, kosher, not kosher question. He sent him the question, and when Rav Elchanan gets the letter in the mail, he reads the question, and he's shocked. How could this rabbi ask such a question? It's a mefurash ramah. It's an explicit statement given by one of the most famous halachic authorities, the Ramah in the Shulchan Aruch. And if a rabbi doesn't know a ramah, it's an embarrassment. You get fired. But what's he going to do? Is he going to send him back? Oh, it's the ramah in this and this section. Go look it up. Then the rabbi is going to get embarrassed. Then the community is going to fire the rabbi. When the rabbi sends the letter back, the community, when they receive the letter, they're going to open it up. They're going to see, oh, it was the Ramah. Rabbi, you don't know the Ramah? You don't know a simple book like this? It's just like imagine today, you have a rabbi that doesn't know what's tefillin. Imagine you say, Rabbi, I have a question on tefillin. And the rabbi's like, what? What's that? What's tefillin? I never heard of that. You get off the class, right? You exit Zoom. If a rabbi doesn't know what tefillin is, right? What kind of joke are you? You don't know what tefillin is. So that's how it was today. Look, the levels dropped. 50 years ago, 100 years ago, if you didn't know explicit Ramah and Shulchan Aruch, you're fired. Get out of here. So what's the rabbi going to do? He's going to respond. Look in this Ramah. It's the answer. He's going to make the other rabbi. They're going to look down at the rabbi. So he spent pages and pages writing an entire answer from his head. Made it up from his head. He said, well, the Gemara says this, and this says there, and this, and this, and this, and that. And after all this, I think, therefore, the halacha is that this is the answer, it's okay, or whatever it was. And he sends the letter, he sends the telegram, and 30 minutes later, he sends him another telegram. And it says over there, by the way, I just looked it up again, and I realized that it's an explicit Ramah. I must have forgotten it, but it's a Ramah in this siman, in this chapter, in this halacha. You can look it up over there, it's explicit. Now, the rabbi was able to send him the right halacha, but without embarrassing. Because Rav Yitzchak Elchanan Spector also forgot that it was the Ramah. He also didn't include it in the first essay. And therefore, if he forgot, then it's okay, we'll excuse you as well. This is amazing midot. This is what it means, that if you want to teach, you have to be able to keep. You can't be two-faced. You can't have a double standard. You can't preach to the kahal one way, but then you yourself are lacking. That's not acceptable. As parents, this is such an important lesson. How many times as parents we expect our children to live by a certain code that is other than how we act. We want them to have no phones at the dinner table, but we have our phones at the dinner table. We want them to wake up early for synagogue, but we don't wake up early for synagogue. We want them to be responsible in their laws. Why, Rabbi, I understand. Why does my son not go to shul? Because you have a guy asking, why does my son not go to shul? I'll say to the guy, I understand, let me ask you a question. Do you keep halakha to the T? Do you keep everything? He says, I don't keep everything, but at least I go to shul. I said, it doesn't matter. You taught your son that you don't have to keep everything. Whatever, you pick what you want to keep. You taught your son that you choose. You chose not to keep Shabbat, but you want to keep shul. Your son's doing whatever he wants also. You're doing what you want, he does what he wants. Why are you so bothered from your son's conduct? Right? So we have to, again, remember that we have to have excellent midot if we want to be able to be the leaders of the next generation, which we all are. We all are leaders. We are all parents. We all have children, etc., etc., etc. This ties back to a very famous midrash. The midrash tells us that when Moshe went up to the heavens to receive the Torah, take a look, my friends. And we'll end with this. When Moshe went up to the heavens to receive the Torah, Gemara tells us in Masechet Shabbat, I believe it's Daf Pei Zayin, Pei Het, 87, 88 over there. The Gemara tells us that when Moshe went up to get the Torah, the angels fought him on it. And the angels said, no. Torah stays up here. And Moshe's like, all right, what do I do? And God says, well, if you want it, give him an answer. And so Moshe had to fight for the Torah. He had to fight for it. It wasn't easy. Sometimes in life, you have to fight for what you want. Even if it's something that God is giving you, you have to fight for it. Can I give you an example? Imagine a person's mazal is to marry someone. That's your nasib. You're supposed to marry this person. It don't mean it's going to come easy. You may have to fight. Right? Sometimes we give up and we say, I don't know, Rabbi. If it's coming to me in such a hard way, it must be it's not the right thing. No, it's not true. Torah was the right thing for Moshe, but he had to fight for it nonetheless. So sometimes the things that are meant to be ours, we got to fight for it. We got to know. Maybe I'm supposed to get this job. Maybe I'm supposed to get this position. Maybe I'm supposed to get this person. We have to be able to, ready to put our foot down and to fight sometimes for it. Again, we have to know what, why, how, when. But either way, Moshe goes up to the heavens and he's ready to receive the Torah. And the angels are saying, no, it's ours. Get out of here. We don't want to give it to you. Okay. So Moshe now has to fight. What does he do? What would you say? What would you say if the thing standing in between you and your dreams, you and the angels, you and the Torah, was the angels? So Moshe says, very smart, look at this. Moshe says to them, well, tell me, what does the Torah say? Give me an example of one of the things in this Torah that you want to keep. And the angels said, well, it says you can't kill. So Moshe says back to them, can't kill. Are you guys mortal? Are you able to even die? That you need this Torah to tell you don't kill? What else does it say? Don't steal. Do you have money? Respect your parents. Do you have parents? And Moshe goes basically one after the next. Brilliant. Proving to the angels that the Torah doesn't pertain to you. You don't need it. And so the angels said, you're right, here you go, take it. And by the way, that's why if you look in our Mishnah, time out, look in our Mishnah, it says, Moshe kibel Torah misinai. Moshe, what does that mean, Moshe kibel? Means Moshe got the Torah from Sinai. Now, how would you phrase now the next sentence? Where Yehoshua is the next guy in line. What would you write if you're writing this Mishnah? What should be the next line? Yehoshua kibel Moshe. Stick to the language. But it doesn't say that. What does it say? He gave it to Yehoshua. And then again, the next one. Yehoshua gave it. He gave it. So only the first one, it says Moshe received. The rest, And then they gave. Why the change in language? And the answer goes back to this midrash. Says the midrash Shemuel, because Moshe was proactive in receiving the Torah. He had to argue the angels. He had to give them a strong knockout. And therefore, he's credited to the receiving. It was more of a kibel than a passive. He received it by doing something. He fought them. Yoshua was more passive. He kind of like let Moshe give it to him as opposed to him going and getting it from Moshe. So on and so forth and so forth. Now, this Gemara is a nice Gemara. The Moshe fighting the angels. But really, we have to understand it. Because the angels are not dumb. The angels, they know they don't have parents. What did they want the Torah for? Not only that, let me ask you another question. Why can't they give it to the people also? What, you can't share? Is Torah limited? Don't we know that fire is like, Torah is like fire? You could take fire and give it to your friend, and give it to your friend, and your friend, and your friend. Torah is infinite. Everyone could have it. Imagine, we're learning here on this class. By the way, those that are listening to the recording, we also have a live Zoom, okay? So if you would like to join it at 9 a.m. every day, we'd love for you to join us. Live Zoom at 9 a.m., right? Eastern time, okay? Imagine one day a guy joins this Zoom, and all of a sudden everyone starts texting me, Rabbi? No. This Zoom could only have X amount of people. We're not accepting any more Zoom customers. We don't want to give up the Torah. It's not fair. Let the Torah stay with us. Would anyone here say that? It's just a foolish thing to say. What do you mean? I could learn Torah and he could learn Torah. I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream. We could all have Torah. What's wrong? What's the angel's problem? Why can't they want Moshe to also have it? You could have it, we could share, we could both have it. We could both study. The whole world has Torah. Are we jealous here because in Israel they're also studying? You could both have it. It's not like they're taking away from ours, right? It's a good question. Well, the way that's explained, beautiful answer that's given, is, I think Chacham Ovadia says this, Rav Dayan Abramsky, Allah Shalom, also says this. He says the angels didn't mind if the Jews studied Torah. That wasn't their problem. Their problem was who should be in charge of its decisions. You know that the Torah has many decisions that need to be made up generation to generation. The Torah Shebechtav is finite, but the Torah Shebe'al Peh is infinite. The Torah Shebe'al Peh was not written. It's flexible. There are certain decisions that need to be made as time goes on. Refrigerator, are you allowed to open up on Shabbat? Are you allowed to use this type of tool? Checking chametz, does it have to be a fire? Different questions come up as life goes on and technology and we have advancements. Who are to render those decisions? Who's going to have the keys? Once God gave the Torah to mankind, man had the keys. We were in charge. Matter of fact, we know there was once a dispute in the Gemara, famous dispute between between Rabbi Eliezer versus all the other rabbis. And primarily at the head was Rabbi Yehoshua. So you have two giants of Torah fighting, battling. Each one is saying their opinion. It's okay, no, it's not okay. And each one's bringing proofs until finally Rabbi Eliezer does the unthinkable. He decides, you ready, to prove his case, to use a little magic. He says, if I'm right, let the water prove it. And all of a sudden the river went backwards. And they're like, don't bring us proof from rivers. He said, well, if I'm right, let the trees prove it. And the trees all of a sudden uprooted. And they're like, we don't buy it. And if I'm right, let the walls prove it. And the walls of the Bet Knesset started caving in. Crazy. And they said, don't bring us the walls. And finally he said, you know what, if I'm right, let God prove it. And a bat kol comes down and says, what do you want from him? He's right. Just follow him already. Now, if you're a rabbi, and you're arguing with another rabbi, it's because you want to know what does Hashem think, right? What if we could ask God? Wouldn't that be the ultimate? That would be the best thing. Listen, right? I think this, you think that, let's go ask Hashem. So this rabbi says, let's ask Hashem, and Hashem says he's right. But you know what Rabbi Yehoshua said? Rabbi Yoshua said the famous words, 3 words, Lo bashamayim hi, which is found in the Torah, those 3 words. It's not in the heavens. You know what that means? It's not in the heavens. Torah is no longer in God's realm. Torah belongs to us, and once you gave it to us at Sinai, we are in charge of its decision making. We call the shots. And Hashem smiled and said, Nitzchuni banai. Yes, that's what I wanted to hear. My children are right. They defeated me. They're in charge. And this is what the angels lost when Moshe came up. The angels lost the right to decide what's the correct way to act, the correct halacha. This is what the angels wanted. The angels wanted to keep the Torah in the heavens. Let it stay by us. Because you could learn it, but we want to be in charge. Well, that's a nice way to understand the Gemara. Only question really is, so then what's Moshe Rabbeinu's argument back to them? Do you have parents? Do you have money to steal? Are you mortal? Well, what does that have to do? That wasn't their question. They were okay with you learning it, you keeping it. We just want to be in charge of deciding the halacha. This goes back to the Yesod, my friends, that if you want to be a person that is in charge of giving the laws, you must be a shomer Torah u'mizvot. You must be a person that observes the law themselves. If angels don't keep the Torah, angels don't have parents, then you are in no position, you have no right to decide the manner for us. And that is, I think, a very important lesson. And I think even intellectually and rationally we understand that if you want to properly help a country, you need to be part of that country. You need to live in that country. You need to know what they're going through. If you're living in a distant land, you cannot use your mind to decide what's the best method of life for these people. When you're living there, you know we need insurance, we need to have a system of trains, you have to be there because man lives in this world and man keeps the laws of the Torah. Now you are qualified to decide to render the decisions. Angels don't keep, and therefore angels can't give. Angels cannot render, they're not in charge of halacha. Again, going back to this answer, that if you want to qualify as the leader, you have to have good character. You have to keep the Torah yourself. And that's why Moshe qualified, Yehoshua qualified, not because of their spirituality, not because of their intellectualism. It's because of their character. It's because of what they did. And that is the most important thing. Okay, so I think we'll stop over here. Beautiful, beautiful ideas on the first sentence of Pirkei Avot. Moshe Kibel, what's this paragraph? What's this sentence doing here in the beginning of Avot, where it should be maybe in the beginning of Shas, and the answers that we gave? We should be zocheh always to live up to these beautiful ideas. Amen. We'll stop over here. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.